Welcome to today's technical seminar with regards to the changes with Higg FEM with the latest version 4.0, which is coming out in just over a week. Thank you all for taking time from your schedules and joining us today. We'll wait for about 5 seconds as we see some more colleagues are connecting and joining in, and then we'll be starting off. Thank you all for being punctual. Thank you all for being on time. I think what is clear is that all of you are interested and committed to improving the sustainability performance of the fashion sector. And one of the tools to measure the performance and assess the current situation is the Sustainable Apparel Coalition's Higg platform, especially the FEM or the Factory Environment Module. With everything else, this too has been going on through changes and updates. And today we will hear a little bit about what those changes are, how are brands looking at these changes, what is their assessment of this change, how are manufacturers looking at these changes, what additional activity will they have to do, how will these changes and data reporting support them with overall initiatives and programs. My name is Rakesh Wazirani, and I have the pleasure and privilege for being the moderator for today's session. With us, we have Angela. She's with Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and we'll hear a little bit about the background of these changes and on a high level, what led to these changes, what their plans are in terms of supporting the industry with capacity building so that everybody is prepared. We'll then hear from a brand, from Qayyum, from OVS, as to how are brands looking at these changes and how are these changes to the Higg FEM 4.0 linking to their overall sustainability plans and programs. And then we'll hear from the ones who are implementing these with Eastman Exports. We'll hear from Arun with regards to what additional activities they had to plan as a manufacturer, what kind of efforts and competence they had to build, what kind of investments will they be making in order to report on the data items there. So let's first get an idea on who else is joining us today. What you see on screen is we have participants from who are based out of many countries. So salam, namaste, shin chao, suste, and ni hao to all of you. There are two countries whose representatives are not joining us, notably Australia and Netherlands. And I think since we are based in South Asia, you would know that they are playing the World Cup today, Cricket World Cup, and perhaps that's where the emotions are occupied. For all of you, then thank you for joining us. What we also see is in terms of the representation, a majority of participants are with SMEs and MSMEs. These are also the companies who would benefit a lot from your knowledge, from your experience with regards to the changes and with regards to your guidance on what they should do to be prepared for those changes. In terms of the manufacturing group, then we see that we have a number of manufacturers who are focused on wet processes like dyeing, printing, finishing. So again, this is where the major impacts are, as we know, and so it will be useful how some of those impacts will and are being addressed. Well, but at the same time, we all know that the fashion sector makes us feel like this. It is the products coming out of the fashion sector which allow people to express themselves and feel happy and be prepared for the right occasion. And at the same time, this is the sector which is a source of employment for millions. But the reason we are talking about today's changes and the sustainability impact and a platform, a tool, a mechanism, a framework is because of these impacts that the sector has in terms of water, in terms of chemicals, in terms of energy, in terms of impact to biodiversity and so on. So what is useful is while you hear from our experts and from our practitioners, what's valuable is also that we get to hear from you. What are the challenges that you are facing? What are the topics that you would want to be addressed with today's session? And what do you feel with regards to the changes with Higg FEM 4.0? Perhaps you have looked at the paper which came out in December from SAC. Perhaps you have participated in the webinar. Perhaps you have looked at the how to Higg. And now is the time, George, perhaps you can add the link to the Menti poll in the chat box. As you can see, there's a link added by our colleague George. Uh, what's really valuable is to hear from you. What do you feel with regards to the ongoing assessment frameworks and with regards to the hotspots on sustainability that you as an organization are focused on? Perhaps it's because the brands that you're working with are asking for it. Perhaps there are regulatory policies in the countries where you're operating which are asking for you. So, George, if you're comfortable then to share the screen so that we can see feedback from our participants. All right. Thank you for the colleagues that have responded. Uh, if you could please click on the link in the chat box and then share with us what are those environmental aspects which you are currently focusing on. Perhaps they have increased in importance recently. In the chat, you have the link to the Menti poll. Alternatively, you could also go to menti.com and enter the passcode. Thank you for the colleagues who are providing feedback. We see that carbon emission reduction has increased in importance. We see also the talk about product durability and repairability coming in, along with this focus on waste, water reduction. And some of you mentioning about eco-label certifications. Thank you for providing feedback. George, do you see additional comments coming in or? Okay, thank you. Then let's also very briefly get feedback from our participants on the second question, George. And if we can have a look once again at the results of the Menti. So it's the same QR code. Either you can scan this QR code or you can click on the link in the chat box. That will allow our speakers to focus and provide further elaboration on the aspects that you are working on. Yeah. And maybe George, once again, if you can share with us the results of what participants are mentioning. So for Angela, Arun, and Kaim, you see the focus on carbon emission reduction. You saw the focus on durability. Now let's see from the audience with regards to what kind of assessments and reportings are the manufacturers responding to. The Higg FEM, for example. Perhaps some of you are responding to the Carbon Disclosure Project questionnaire. Perhaps some of you are responding to Germany's Supply Chain Due Diligence Act requirements from your partners. Maybe some of you are listed on the stock exchange and you're responding to frameworks like GRI, SASP, and so on. Perhaps some of the brands are asking you specifically some questions. Maybe the investors who are supporting you with funds, whether this is IFC, the Apparel Impact Institute, or Good Fashion Fund, are asking you to respond. And maybe there are other frameworks. For the participants who have mentioned other, if you could please share your feedback via the chat box. Yeah. So at the moment, Angela, Arun, and Kaim, you see that majority of the participants are mentioning the Higg FEM. We also see that one participant had mentioned about the the due diligence requirements from Germany. Thank you. George, if you can paste the link to the Menti poll once again, so the participants who recently joined in can provide feedback to us, yeah? All right. Please have that feedback coming in. We keep this poll open so that our speakers can respond to this, yeah? And meanwhile, what we see as the big picture, as the targets with all those hotspots, is that the industry overall has certain goals for sustainability. There are goals with regards to reduction of emissions. There are goals with regards to reduction of fresh water. There are goals with regards to ensuring that biodiversity is not being negatively impacted. And of course, the big picture goal is to have this circular textile value chain. This, thanks to the UNEP report, yeah. At the same time, there's clarity with regards to the hotspots that the industry and the value chain should monitor and how they are linked to the overall planetary priorities, as we see on the right hand side. This is then also being reflected with development in policy measures. On screen, you see those 16 policy measures which impact the textile industry, and especially also with regards to reporting, especially with regards to due diligence aspect in terms of monitoring the emissions, reducing the emissions, eliminating harmful chemicals. What we also see is, as the due diligence law and the supply chain act has been enforced in Germany, France, and soon perhaps also in EU. Here on screen is an example from the risk check. So in this case, we selected a checklist for these two industry categories, textile fibers and upperland clothing. And what we see in the environment section, both of these elaborate on the use of Higg index tool, yeah, such that the manufacturers gain knowledge about the environmental impact of clothing production. We see that many large brands have committed to science-based targets, and we'll hear a little bit more about this from our speakers. At the same time, the situation on the ground is that there is a planetary crisis, or so-called triple planetary crisis, wherein usage of harmful chemicals and waste is having an adverse impact on biodiversity, usage of energy is having an impact on climate change, and how all of these are interconnected and interrelated. We see the situation in terms of change in land use. We see the situation in terms of negative impact to biodiversity. And perhaps this is also where some of your raw materials are being sourced from. In response to this, there are frameworks, there are tools which have come out. There's a risk filter from WWF, which showcases, for example, the impact from and to the textiles and apparel sector in terms of pollution and the potential impact, in terms of impact to usage of materials from key biodiversity areas. In response to this, the Fashion Pact has come up with a set of navigator so that the industry can look through the available frameworks and tool and go through this. And Textile Exchange recently came out with a study. So those are all the hotspots. And at the same time, the SAC Hague Index suite of tools went through a technical review. In this technical review, it was clear that one of the core data collection platforms to support with overall reporting would be the Higg FEM in terms of further granularity of data. We also see the use of the Higg FEM in potential use of Higg FEM with sustainable trade finance, as you see on screen. So with all of those changes and with the desire of the industry to address its impact, one of those platforms is the Higg FEM. The major change has been with 4.0. So Angela, with many months which were spent on the changes with 4.0 and all the efforts that you put in, if you could take maybe 15 minutes to give our audience an overview of what those changes are, what are the major aspects, how some of them are linked to the major sustainability impact aspects that brands and NGOs want the industry to look at them.
Yes, Rakesh. Well, thank you for a good easing to that. I think you can see my screen properly. So I'm Angela with SAC. So updating the Higg FEM was a very highly collaborative effort among the SAC members and also the industry stakeholders. So we spent the last 2 years, very specific, and also 2-3 years to start planning and then working with over hundreds of members, stakeholders, and facilities users to collect feedback on the tool framework, on score methodologies, and all the questions content. These insights coming from our key member engagement team and strategic council help us to identify gap in regulations, industry standard and needs, and incorporate all of these into these the new version of the Higg FEM 4.0. So we are very happy that it is launching next week. So on November 2nd, these will finally go live. The industry has been prepared for the last year. You probably have joined many webinars such as this one, as well as like already read the technical papers and also recently released on the How to Higg FEM guide. So we just wanted to celebrate and reminding you these key dates. And then we also wanted to remind everybody that although November 2nd is the launch day, but the April 30th is the day that you need to post the self-assessment for the Higg FEM AM 4.0. That's meaning that you still have about 4 or 5 months that you can work on the 2023 reporting data. So what are the key changes into the FEM 4.0 on a high level? So on the framework side, obviously the level advancing. So we continue to have level advancing methodologies, but this time in all session that facility must require to score all the score level questions in level 1 before the level 2 and 3 will applicable to them. So you probably see there's no differences, but the only differences that you can see is on the wastewater section, we have aligned with the CHC requirement for the 4.0. Therefore, we will not be needing to unlock all the 3 levels for facility. So that will save you guys the facility time and really focus on what is important to you based on your operations and your performance at this date. So that's the level advancing methodologies. We also refine-tune applicability. So in the past few years, we collected thousands of feedback with the FEM 3.0. Some of them's common feedback is that, well, the question is that's not applicable to my facility. Why do I have to answer it? Why do I get penalized for not and be able to answer it? So we have review every single of those thousands feedback with our members and stakeholders, and we have now refined to a 23 unique pathway for facility to answer their applicable questions. So what does it mean is that their probably facility wouldn't be able to compare themselves because you may have a different process, you may have a different operations that would allow you to answer different type of questions in the Higg FEM. So very generic known is that, for example, in a water session, we're still going to identify as a water risk and water consumption. So when you see Rakesh presented, like the water scarcity, they're like across the world. So we also we continue to utilize the WRI as well as the WWF informations to identify factories in the high water scarcity risk locations that will require to continue to set target and improvement progress versus for facility that located in a lower water scarcity risk area and that don't use that much water, then their focus will not be in the water. Their focus probably in somewhere else. So then we won't be asking them to complete the target and improvement setting. So, so there are also other logic in the questions that you will see. So again, in the Higg FEM, we have revamped the data collection to try to collect more accurate data, especially in regarding to compact the decarbonization. So that is one of our broader version of the evolution for impact at SAC. So we know that we need to understand what specific energy type the facility is actually using, and depends on what energy source that they're using, then there will be relevant questions that asking them to complete, either to increase the use of, for example, renewable energy or eliminating the use of coal, as also is a emerging industry standards. So there we're also looking at water. So we added groundwater contamination related questions as groundwater or the use of the groundwater for production use have a significant impact for the environment in the local communities, we really wanted to start collecting this information, also driving a proper behavior at the facilities on reducing and, if possible, to eliminate the use of the groundwater for production use. So that's some of the examples that you're going to see that will have significant differences for the questions. And also because of these applicability, the scoring methodologies, generic is very similar to the FEM 3.0, but you won't be able to, but the questions itself, the score per question may be different between, depends on the applicabilities that you're in. So, in generic scoring terms would be on the level 1, the maximum score that you can get is 25%. And again, because of the applicability questions or the energy source that you pick, or whether or not you have groundwater, then the number of questions may vary. But the generic scoring calculation would be to utilize the maximum 25% of the level 1 and divide it by the number of score questions that applicable to you. Then that would be the individual question score. So this is something that facility always asks. So I just want to show you how it's calculated so that you have the generic concept on that. So another thing is that we have increase the scenarios that could result in 0 point in Higg FEM. So in the past, only if you don't have a valid operating license that you would result in an FEM, the entire FEM will be resulted in 0 points. But because we also going to help the improve to step up their game. So in additional, so in FEM 4.0, we are also adding scenarios that if a facility does not have a required environmental permit on site and without a valid reason, then the facility will be, the whole Higg FEM will be resorted in 0 point. So facility always asks, what is the valid reason? So there we have already predetermined valid reason. So basic idea is that if you're able to provide documentation to prove that you are in the process of applying the environmental permit, but it's just not there at the time of the assessment, then we won't be penalized with the 0 point. But if there's a very obvious reason, like, if you're violating a certain environmental law and the regulator just don't issue to you, well, obviously you need to fix that non-compliance before you can get it. So those are not considered as a valid reason and will restore the Higg FEM as a 0 point. So these are some of the things, like big things that you need to be aware of in the Higg FEM coming up. So another I wanted to call out is that, and also very related to the RegCatch presentation, as well as your top three most important environmental impact coming up is about the carbon emissions. So we in Higg FEM 4.0, we revamped the collection tool, as I was mentioning earlier. So one of them is that we are trying to collect and also help individual facility to be able to report their scope 1 and scope 2 GHG emissions through the Higg FEM. What does it mean is that we're going to be asking various different questions in energy session, in air emission, because that's related to the refrigerants, as well as wastewater. If you have on-site wastewater, we wanted to also capture the biological treatment information and the data from the wastewater so that we can add all of these up to become your scope 1 and scope 2 GHG emission. And these calculations align with the GHG protocol, as well as align with the Science-Based Target Initiative, which is also commonly or increasing requirements from maybe your customers as well. So we put the question number in here specific in this slide. What does it mean is that I'm going to ask you to be careful when you answer these questions, because these will have a direct impact on how your GHG going to be calculated automatically on the platform. So if you're able to accurately input this data, you will have an accurate GHG emission that you do not need to go somewhere else to source it. So that's why we wanted to put it there for you. So, and also, as many one know that we are the FEM 4.0 increases by the link. So, number of question increases, no doubt. But again, we want to make sure that this is not a monster that you need to be scared of. Some of these questions was more details from the previous 3.0 version that allow us to collect a more proper data. We can do better analysis to inform the industry on the trend, on what would be the focus area as an industry as a whole. So some of those are expanded, but then, again, we all have, a new question like what I was mentioning, the groundwater contaminations. In the water session, we are asking for science-based target network, which is also something recently come up on the water reduction initiative. And again, for the wastewater, although here is say 33 questions in FEM 4.0, it's like triple. But again, because of the applicability, not every single facility is going to answer 33 questions in the wastewater sessions. Some is much less. If you don't have a wastewater, you have very limited questions to be answered. But then if you have a very sophisticated on-site wastewater treatment and all of those, then we included like the CDC testing, the wastewater test guidance, as well as the wastewater slush guideline questions into the wastewater as well. So these are just some of the examples in here, and we won't have time to go through everything. But what I wanted to really show you, and very specific because it's so important, is that from FEM 4.0, you will be, if you are vertically integrated facilities, then you will be required to report separately on annual volume, energy consumption, water consumption by your facility type. So this is very important. And it is also very important that you must also report from a mandatory unit of measure. While there are additional unit of measures to allow you to input your as an option to allow to input other unit of measure. But what we want to do to standardize with this benchmarking is that hopefully in a couple years, maybe 2-3 years, when the facilities data are more mature, then we will then be able to compare either like facilities with their annual volume by unit or by kg or a certain part categories. So we just wanted to start educating the industry to provide more common and standardized reporting instead. So that's two key very important things that I've always tell the facilities in the webinars to keep reminding yourself. So again, so this is just a permit. These are the list of the reasons that I'm not going to go through here. What I wanted to do for the next couple of minutes is to direct you to all the resources available for you right now. This is just the important tips. You will have this deck, so you please do take a look at it when you have a chance. But then, the technical paper is something that we have released for a year already. I really hope that every one of you have already looked at it more than once, at least a minimum by now. It has all the information. Look at the Appendix B. If you follow every single line item in the Appendix B in this technical paper already, you have a very good chance and you're already in a very good positions to complete the Higg FEM 4.0 when it launches. So it had all the very comprehensive information there. So please do look at it. The Appendix B, it is so important. At the same time, we also receive a lot of feedback about, okay, English is not my first language. I don't understand. This is difficult. So we have tried our best to record into another 3 languages, and which is commonly requested. So there are Mandarin, Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese available in the training recording material for everybody's to access. You will have this information, and it is on the howtohig.org, which is this training website that you should memorize the link by now. We also have the How to Hig guide already available. We have made some amendments since August because we have received some feedback from the facility users in our recently pilot. So to make it all better and clear, so we have another new version coming up very soon for you guys. And then right now the team is working on translating this into multiple languages. So the first batch of the languages will be available to you is by the end of the year. So that would be simplified Chinese, Vietnamese, and Bengali, and Spanish. And then while the other language will be available in Q1 2024, so which is the Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, and Turkish. So another great resource is the SAC approved trainer. While SAC won't be able to speak all the languages, and we also won't be able to translate 100 languages in the world, please do utilize these SAC approved trainers. They are trained by our TPM, which is Sumera, on the Higg FEM 4.0. And most importantly, they have the expertise to help you to improve the Higg FEM performance, as well as to be able to deliver training in their local languages, which is something that you would probably appreciate. So please do utilize them, and they're available here in this link as well. And last but not least, I wanted to take this moment to share there's a webinar coming up, the Go Live launch webinar on November 7 and 8. I believe George is going to put the link into the chat now, so please register. The launch webinar is the official launch. We will provide more updates on the material as well as the verification program for FEM 2023. So let's celebrate there and get more information. So, well, thank you. That is the end of my presentation. I'll give the floor back to Rakesh.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for taking us on this journey and introducing the major changes. What's clear is, on one hand, the Higg FEM 4.0 has the scientific basis, but what I also enjoyed was how the entire team has artfully included all the concerns. So, participants, if you have any questions for Angela, please continue adding them to the chat box. And I'm going away with a one word with 3 alphabet, art. Like art, I see alignment. I see the alignment with other initiatives you mentioned with ZDHC requirements for wastewater and those standards. I see the relevance aspect. You mentioned based on the factory profile, certain questions will be visible or not visible that they don't have to answer. And I see the technical units of measure, which you said importantly, yeah, that you start to include this. I'm curious on one part. Some of the participants responded that their brands are also asking them about looking for how their sourcing practices are not impacting biodiversity negatively, let's say because of deforestation. And that also is a small change, isn't it, with biomass certifications?
Yes, so it is becoming very popular subject on the biomass. So for FEM 4.0, we are starting to collect those informations. So we will be, so we have asked the facility to be completed. Where are they sourcing their biomass? Are they actually a sustainable certified biomass, or they're not? So as long as they are not certified biomass, they will consider either a unsustainable or unknown origin, and that's where's the hint to make improvement. So we're hoping we're starting to get these idea that maybe in a year or 2 years, then we have enough information to be able to inform the industry where and how can we help the industry to change more towards the sustainable biomass.
Okay, got it. Yeah. And on the other hand, Angela, you mentioned that the platform is available in multiple languages. We have one question from a participant asking if one of the regional languages of Tamil, uh, if you have plans to have the platform in this language. It's a language predominant in a part of India, and this is a part of India which has a large uh, amount and number of manufacturers. Yeah. Do you have any plans?
Right now, we don't have any plan in to translate material in Tamil because we've also been getting we have inquired what kind of languages would be good to translate. One of them is that they keep telling us the Indian factory is very good in English.
Mm,
So it is not necessary, but we could definitely review that again, maybe for future reference.
okay, okay. Got it. Yeah. Then, Angela, before we listen from a brand, I'm curious, when you shared all these changes with Higg FEM 4.0 about the granularity of data, about the alignment and so on, with regards to the SAC member brands, the manufacturers, the technical teams who were involved in the development and who looked at the tool, what is clear is everybody wants much more. They want all of the additional reporting to be included so they can talk about circularity on factory level, deforestation related aspects, and that there should be one assessment framework where they can do all. So, are the members equally happy with the 4.0 or equally unhappy with the 4.0? How is it?
Well, I wouldn't use equally happy or equally unhappy, but there definitely see a big improvement in the Higg FEM, and it
Okay.
is very true. Everybody's want more. If you're adding more, everybody's want more. They want, people like data, but then
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people that when they have data, they don't know what to do.
Mm,
So it is an interesting dynamic when we actually work on the FEM with various members. So we have tried to balance those to be, not asking too much, but then is the right amount to start the industry improving and doing to the next level instead of keeping
mm,
the individual. But there's a lot of educations going on, but I think the brands and the manufacturers all looking forward to this new big improvement.
mm,
And then I think now the next step is for people to actually start using it to see
mm.
how we can, what do we see this potential, to be
Got
in the
it.
future.
All right. Thank you, Angela. You said the important word that for people to actually start using it. And one of those main actors who evaluates the platform and the changes and requests the supply chain to use it is a brand. So let's hear from OVS and let's hear from Mr. Abdul Kaim. Kaim, you have, of course,
Yeah,
spent a lot of time looking at these changes and how they would integrate and work together with your overall objectives as a brand. If you could share with us your journey in terms of reviewing Higg FEM 4.0, the changes that it comes with, what you discuss with your factories, what kind of effort you put into reviewing these changes overall, yeah? And the important and the challenging aspect, while you have spent many months, I'm sure, on this, to take us on this journey in about 12 to 15 minutes, yeah?
yeah. Thank you, Rakesh, and thank you, GIZ, for arranging this kind of very important topic. And thanks to SAC for arranging all the things that was discussed a few minutes back in one framework. Because nowadays everyone is one everything in one platform. So for our concern, we are doing a lot of things. So why not put it together? That would be better for the supplier to interact with us and to reduce the impact. If you talk about the uh, environmental impact, so we are obvious. So as a fashion retailer, in number one Italian fashion retailer, we are number one in Italy, and we have about 10% of market share, and our turnover is about more than 1,000 million euro. And we are a big company, like we have 8,000 our associates all over the world, and we have about 2,000 stores all over the world, and including recently we have opened our stores in USA. So we have market not only in Europe but also in Middle East and America as well. And you can see these are the brands, the major brands we are working with, and one of them I must say about the Piombo, which is nowadays is very promising brand from design point of view. And design, it comes about the circular business model. So then I talk about what are the main initiatives we are doing now, right now. So if you see the upper side, the fashion revolutions. So we are number one for the consecutive 3 years for the Fashion Transparency Index by Fashion Revolutions, and we are got about 83% of marks for getting these results, and it's increasing day by day. And we believe that transparency is the key to success towards the sustainability. And another thing is our traceability part, and how we are doing this kind of reduction to the environment. So we have introduced eco value for all of the garments in our store selling, that is eco value which corresponds to the different sustainability aspects like water consumption, carbon emission and circularity in terms of the LCA model we have developed through our partnership with a public university in Italy. And if you go right hand side below, so you will see that we have also working with circular business modeling, and we are one of the top contributors for the circular fashion partnership, which was done in 2021 especially. And from that we introduced the pre-consumer waste to make it recycle yarn, and then again we use it in our collections. And we are about 25% collector of the total waste. It's about 200, more than 200 tons of waste that is going to our collection. It's about 500,000 t-shirts we have produced with this. And one of the very most important thing, if you see the bottom left side, is our last sustainability report, showing that making progress is one of our main key. And if you see, we see in a binocular view that we want to reduce the impact of the environment in terms of energy, water, chemicals, and eventually we want to reduce the GHG emission. That's why we launched a project which is called Making Progress in all of our sourcing countries. Especially it is started with Bangladesh, and STS Blue Wind is one of our partner in this project. And definitely we will increase the partnership in other sourcing country as well. And we have, regarding our sustainability journey, we have introduced a sustainability linked bond in 2021, and in 2024 we have a target. And what we did in this sustainability linked bond, there is one of the two main KPIs is that to reduce the carbon emission by 21% within 2024. And one important thing, KPI, is also the Higg introduction with our supply chain. And we will be very pleased to see that we have a plan of 100% supplier involvement, not only for the FEM but also the FSLN. And with the verified module, 80% of our volume should be verified by 2024. And for this reason, I can give you one statistics that right now we have about more than 95% of our supplier under the Higg. So why we want this involvement from the supplier? So as you see that 4.0 is involvement all the initiatives in a one platform. So we want our supplier to do all this kind of initiative through this platform so that there will be very cost-effective ways. So there will be less involvement or less independence with the consulting firms. So they will reduce a lot of money if they introduce themselves or involve themselves in each and every steps of the FEM, how it goes on actually. So it's a very efficient way to do that. Regarding the sustainability linked bond, in 2021 we have also approved target of science-based target, and you can see that nowadays it's a very important initiatives to tag in actually. So we tagged in 2021, and we have about 46% of reduction of scope 1 and 2 emission by 2023. We have a baseline of 2019. And you can see that the number of companies actually setting the target is increasing day by day. From these two graphs, you can easily see. And how we are doing these initiatives, how we are actually reducing our carbon neutrality towards the carbon neutrality. So from 2022, we can give you just a glimpse of our attention. So we are focusing on, first of all, the material, then the transportation, then the packaging and the manufacturing. So in this 4 area, we are focusing on how to reduce the carbon emissions. And in terms of material, as we said earlier, so we are also linked with the circular business modeling. So why we are very much interested in this initiative? Because from the right hand side, you can easily see when a recycled yarn is being used, so the carbon emission is drastically decreased. So if you see wool, in case of wool, it's about 94%, and in terms of polyester, it's about 76%, polymer 92%. So you can see a lot of reduction. Almost all the carbon emission will be reduced by if you use the recycled yarn. And in terms of the transportation, you can see that in our case, what we did actually, we reduced the yard freight. In terms of yard freight, 88% of our volume has been transported in 2019 by yard freight. And we have a goal to reduce from more than 22,000 tons of total carbon GHG emission was in 2019, and we have a target in up to 2024 to reduce it about 11,000. So it's a huge reduction if you just transfer all the shipment, reduce the shipment of yard shipment. And another thing is the packaging material. So we eliminating the single-use plastic to the recycled plastic, and also we introduced the recyclable hangers, so that after 2022 there will be nothing left for the single-use plastic and recyclable hanger. And just for an example, whenever we are using our supply chain to reduce, using the FEM to reduce the carbon emission. So you can see the left hand side and right hand side, there are two suppliers, our suppliers, who are gradually decreasing their carbon emissions. So left hand side is one of the Chinese supplier, right hand side one of the Bangladeshi supplier. You can easily see the gradual reduction of their carbon emission. So what are the changes? Actually, Angela already told a lot of things about this, so I will not focus on this. Just what I want to tell that we are focused on aligning more industry initiatives to one platform. And one of the important things we came across that there is energy and water calculation will be for the production use and for the domestic use. And now suppliers can focus more on the what are the main area to focus actually. So previously it was combined, so they couldn't actually quantify what are the production uses and where they should focus more actually. And one of the very important increment of inclusion was that is the carbon offsetting and fossil fuel phase out initiatives that we are very much interested in, and also rainwater harvesting and circular system of production waste that I discussed earlier. So if these are included and suppliers are reporting all these things, so they will see a lot of information with their reporting, and I think they will satisfy more customer than the previous, I think. And regarding the fossil fuel phase out, so you will see the recent concern from different parts of the world. And on the left side, in Guardian, the International Energy Agency head, he was actually worried about the new oil, gas, coal development is still going on. So we need to reduce it by any way. And the middle slide is the news was from the UN Secretary General, and he also told that he urged a lot of attention to the world leaders to focus more on the renewable rather than the fossil fuel. And recently, in the right-hand side, the senator from United States and one of the member of Parliament, Sabir Hossain Chaudhry from Bangladesh, he also the chief of Department of Environment and from Bangladesh government, he also asked that it's an opportunity to phase out the fossil fuel, and the leaders will have to convince all the participants. And in Bangladesh, you know, there are a lot of green factories, and they are the champions. They will have to do this kind of spreading of phasing out the fossil fuel. And what actually the suppliers need to do? We know all the things. We know what is going on. We can see in Europe, in America, there are a lot of climate change effect is happening. So first of all, from brand point of view, from our experience, we saw that a lot of times manufacturer, I'm talking about the overall industry, they don't know how to deal with this kind of things. So our recommendation, or I think from our brand colleagues also very much agree with this, they should go on with their education, they should go on with their capacity building in terms of what they should do. And GIZ and UNFCCC have done a very great job. I suggest all the suppliers, regardless of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, they should go on this climate action training, and it's free of cost. They will not charge anything. And you can see the module is developed on different stages of the reporting of the climate changes. It will focus on GHG emissions, it will protocol, it will focus on what are the current initiatives related to the Fashion Charter, RE100, everything is there. And one of the most important thing for this training we found that the resource of this training is very, very detailed. There are a lot of material inside this training, and you can easily find very resourceful information in there. And eventually, you will find a certificate for this. just not for the certificate, but when you will receive the certificate, and if you don't achieve 60% of mark, you will not receive a certificate. Not only for the certificate, but also the required knowledge, you have to go for it. I mean, I'm talking about the supply chain suppliers working with different brands. And I also recommend Higg Index that Angela already told about a lot of things. So I just told, show one thing, that there are a lot of things in how to Higg guide. So you have to be proactive. Otherwise, you will not learn the benefit of Higg Index. So I have talked about with a lot of suppliers. So, and I found that they didn't go through the Higg Index thoroughly. So that is the reason they are not benefiting from the Higg FEM. So my recommendation, or our recommendation, is to go through how to Higg guide and the technical FEM 4.0. That will benefit a lot. So and how to plan this kind of thing. So first of all, if you see the right hand side, though it's very small, but in one shot I can tell you, you have to make a baseline. Where are you stand now for the suppliers? So you can see from this table, there are a lot of area found out, and I just focus on the energy area. So you can see that a lot of area you can focus, like I can say one thing, the stream generation and stream distribution, and also distribution system. So there, we from our experience, we saw that in the fabric mill as well as in the garment manufacturer, they have a lot of leakage in the air system, in the steam system. So that will actually create a lot of energy loss in the environment, and that will cost a lot. So if you do a baseline assessment with any kind of program, that is resource efficiency program, I will come into my next slide, what are the initiatives you can go on with. So just in summary, for the cost benefit analysis and return of investment analysis, you can summarize what are the things you can do, and to have a plan. This is very important. And you also can go with the science-based target initiative itself. So you can see from the website of science-based target initiative how you can do it. Just to commit a plan, then develop how you can do this, and then submit the plan to the SBT, and then communicate with your stakeholders and disclose the things. So what we want to tell you, not only us, we have committed to a target. So you as a supplier, manufacturer, you can also contribute. So in the last SAC annual meeting in Singapore, just before the US, so Adidas or Puma showed a kind of their pilot program, that their supply chain have a SBTI, scope 1 and 2 emission. So there are 15 suppliers, they have did it within the China and India, some of the suppliers from India. So they did it in a way that, so supplier also can have their science-based target initiatives. So they can do it. So they can consult with their brand partners. So they will help us, we will help you to develop all these kind of things. And another thing, I just focus on that the energy attributed certificates and racks. It's a very initiative by SAC to introduce in 4.0, because I know that some of the suppliers are doing this carbon offsetting with the energy attributed certificates. So they can also plan to buy from now onwards to buy more of the things, certificates to offset their carbon reduction. And in terms of energy management system, so I came across with this standard. So this standard suppliers can implement this standard. This is a very good standard in focusing the potential energy users. So whenever we got a very huge energy from any specific section, for example, dyeing section in a fabric mill or in a vertically integrated facility. So with this standard, you can easily identify what are the most potential area to be concerned actually.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaim, for those insights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the, so Rakesh, I have a few minutes.
Yeah, let's summarize in 1 minute and let's only focus for this slide what relates to 4.0. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the implementation, I just summarize the things that we can have different kinds of initiatives to focus on these initiatives. So as I told you, so that resource efficiency program that we are doing and everyone as a supplier can do. So they can do with starting with the low-hanging fruits. For example, for the energy users in the 4.0, there are a lot of area they can focus on. So one of the very important area that suppliers are doing the low-hanging fruits. For example, using the signage for not using the fans or light whenever you're not in the room, servo motors, and push water taps and motion sensors. So these are the low-hanging fruits, and short-term target they can use, as I told, that for the utility of leakage maintenance and for the steam trap. So these kinds of short-term targets can be achieved within usual utility maintenance. And long-term targets, actually, you can use implement the solar PV or EGV or economizer. So in terms of 50,001, as I told you, the energy potential areas like in dyeing area or any other area which can be seen the most efficient for the energy users, that could be more focused on. So I think, and okay, for the last point, I just focus on the REC certificates. So in this video, actually, you can see how the system will work. So I'm not going to the area, just to focus on that. In different platforms, you can use this, you can purchase these REC certificates or ESC certificates. So you can see left-hand side an example of the REC certificates, which you can see that about 1.7 megawatts of electricity could be offset by using this kind of REC certificate. So the information could be found here in IREC standard, IREC, how you can see that and how the system works. You can easily see with the video. And the platform, there are a lot of platforms regarding this. You can see one of the platform is tradable instrument for global renewables, TIGR. You can see it. So I think, thank you very much. I have done.
Yes. Thank you, Kaim. For us, it seems like we continue with the theme of SAC. Your work is also like a piece of art. You have analyzed the hotspots that you have in terms of sustainability, regulatory and non-regulatory. You have reported on what impacts that are considered for your company and what you're doing. And then you have taken action. You have the bond, you are engaging with your suppliers on different initiatives. Thank you very much. Now,
thank you, Rakesh.
Yes, you have patiently heard from SAC team about all the work that went into developing the 4.0 and the changes and the technical groups that were involved. You've heard from a brand with regards to what the approach has been in terms of reviewing 4.0 and how it could potentially support. Let's hear from you on behalf of manufacturers, and we see that from our participants, majority of participants are working for micro and small and medium enterprises. Yeah, not all of them have the time and resources to review things in detail like Eastman exports. You and your team have reviewed this in much detail. You and your team are reporting on many initiatives. Perhaps some are linked to local regulation. Perhaps others are because your company wants to do the right thing, and maybe many more because the brands you work with request you to report. So, if Arun, you can compress all of your efforts and your learnings from the many months since the 4.0 changes came out, and share with our audience what is your perspective. What more will you have to do as a manufacturer and a user of the platform, and where you feel there will be benefits for your organization, your products, your processes, and your reporting. Yeah, Arun.
Thank you so much, Rakesh, for your great introduction. And thanks for Jis. Good morning, good afternoon to all the webinar listeners in different time zone. It's a great pleasure to share some insights about Higg FEM 4.0 updation in additional data collection. So once again, I'm Arun Hariharan, Sustainability Analyst in Eastman Exports. Eastman Exports is the largest manufacturer and exporter of knit apparel with 250 million USD per annum. We are a vertically integrated setup. We can able to produce from yarn to garment with a capacity of 10 million garments per month. And some of the sustainability initiatives such as we have adopted ZLD in our dye house, and more than 90% of water is recycled and again reused for our dye house. And we are proud to say that we are a zero coal industries. We eradicated our coal usage 100% from our entire supply chain. So today we are going to detailedly review about data interpretation in Higg FEM 4.0 in manufacturer's perspective. Firstly, we are going to see about the energy reporting. Whereas in Higg FEM 4.0, they have given a detailed interpretation about renewable energy and non-renewable energy sources. Especially in electricity, they have classified majorly in 4 classification. I have taken 4 classification for detailed interpretation. Purchased electricity, which is the electricity which you will get from the grid. Purchased renewables are the renewable energy you will get from the third party who has renewable energy. You make an agreement with them and you are getting renewable energy for your factory. That is known as purchased renewables. And for on-site renewables, solar and wind, which is present in the inside the premises of your facility, and you are generating renewable energy and using for your facility, that will cover under on-site renewables. And EAC, energy attribute certificates. Energy attribute certificates are those certificates which will represent the how the energy is generated and ownership of it. It may be varies according to your regional and country wise. In some area they will say it as REC and IREC and then GEC. Likewise, they have said. From how to Higg guidelines, I have taken one scenario for our better understanding. First of all, I will read. Facility uses 100 megawatt of electricity within the facility, out of which 20 megawatt is purchased from purchased renewables connected to PPA, and 40 megawatts from on-site solar, and additional EACs are retired under the facility name for 40 megawatts. Firstly, we have to identify what are this is a basic scenario which has been taken from the how to Higg guidelines. I will interpret this for our visualization. You can interpret for your facility which source of energy you are getting for your facility, how you can report to the Higg portal. You can be visualized by this. First, I have to identify what are the renewable energies associated with this facility. So 20, it's not working. So about 20 megawatt is from purchased renewables, and then 40 megawatt is from on-site renewables. Before identifying non-renewable energy, which is purchased electricity, I have to sum up all the renewable energies. The sum of renewable energy is about 60. That purchased renewables and on-site renewables, I have to sum up and I have to subtract it with the total electricity consumption, which is about 100 megawatt. If I subtract 60 with this 100, I can able to get the value of 40. And in the third line, you can able to see the facility also have EAC certification. So EAC, I have to report 40 megawatt. So, like, as I said here, you have to visualize for your facility and identify what are all the sources applicable for your facility, and you have to report everything separately. Nextly, we are going to see about sustainable biomass. In 4.0, they have clearly specified that is the biomass sourced from sustainable source. Here, how to see guideline they have defined as if you are sourcing biomass with the certifications is known as sustainable biomass, and without certification is known as non-sustainable biomass. You have to report it separately. How much quantity of biomass is sourced with the certification and without certification. Here I have mentioned some of the certifications like Forest Stewardship Council (FSC) and the Program of the Endorsement of Forest Certification (PEFC) and Sustainable Biomass Program (SBP). But this is not only limited certification. If there is any certification available based on your local country specific or region specific certification can also be adopted, but that should be authentic. Here, biomass is sourced from some of the suppliers may source the biomass from cutting down the trees. This is a very unsustainable way. The sustainable certification says what is it saying is this biomass may be sourced from sustainable way such as rice husk, agriculture waste, or some other wood saw, that sawdust waste, which is more sustainable. That's why it's certified biomass. This is uncertified biomass. And another is emission factor reporting. In 4.0, you can able to report your current emission factor for the purchased electricity or purchased heat or any purchased energies, but you have to provide proper link for it. You need to satisfy that how this value has been arrived. If you say it as 0.8 kg of CO2 per kilowatt or kg, you need to provide backup calculation for it, where it is arrived, where you get this from, whether it is an authentic website or not. And another major updation is about on-site vehicle fuel consumption. Here you can see in Higg FEM 4.0, you have to track and report the fuel consumption and energy consumption separately for the vehicle usage. For example, if the facility have a electric forklift, you have to calculate how much quantity of electricity has been used for the forklift in the particular reporting period. You have to calculate it separately. You have to subtract it with the total electricity consumption. You have to report it separately. If there is no separate tracking is available, then you have to mention as no for this, because now the Higg 4.0 is more considered about emissions. Initially, if you see, there is on-site vehicle fuel consumption like electric forklifts are considered in the scope 2 emission, but it is now considered in scope 1. That's the purpose of this on-site fuel tracking. It's not only limited to electric forklift. It will be applicable to the diesel forklift and diesel vehicles which are used by the facility. And another major update is about tracking energy. Tracking energy, domestic usage need to be tracked separately, and then industrial usage need to be tracked separately. For whatever the applicable sources which you have selected in the previous, you need to, that questions will be pop up in a table. You need to be answered as domestic usage separately and then industrial usage separately. So in the guideline, they have clearly mentioned that administrative functions are considered as a domestic use. So you have to fix a separate meter for the administrative office, and in a regular frequency, you have to measure those electricity consumption. You need to subtract with the total electricity consumption to get those industrial usage separately and then domestic usage separately. Likewise, I will move to the next topic, water reporting. Based on the facility scenario, they have classified as, we need to select as blue water and gray water usage. Let me explain gray water. Gray water is a water which is polluted by human activities, and blue water is a fresh water which will be get from the surface or groundwater. So these are the classifications of grey water. Grey water which may be get from the municipal water, you can report it in the municipal grey water. If your facility have a ETP plant or STP plant, if you are recycling the water and again used for the production purpose, then you need to report in the recycled water. Recycled water in grey section. And then reuse water without treating, and if you are reusing any water means, then that's also need to be reported in grey water. Treated wastewater from external source. If you are getting any external wastewater source for your facility production process, then it should be reported in the grey water classification as treated wastewater from external source. That's similarly untreated wastewater from external source. And these are the classifications of blue water. Blue water is, as I said earlier, it is a fresh water, fresh groundwater, fresh surface water, and then municipal blue water, condensate from external steam source, and rainwater. These need to be reported separately. Based on this scenario, which I have said earlier, you have to identify what are the sources of water which will be sent to your facility. You need to classify it as blue or gray. As I seen in the energy section, likewise we have to track it as a industrial and domestic for water. So separate tracking which need to be implemented. So as in the previous slide we have seen about the blue water and gray water. Initially we have to classify it as blue water and gray water. Then from the blue water and gray water we have to classify it as how much quantity of blue water is used for the industrial purpose and domestic purpose. How much quantity of gray water is used for the domestic purpose and industrial purpose. You have to first identify the source, then you have to segregate it as industrial and domestic. And then another important update from water is about if your facility has selected a pre-treatment in your site info section, then you have to report what are the quantity of water rejected within the pre-treatment. So it will be applicable to the facilities whoever selected pre-treatment in their facility. So you have to identify from what source your pre-treatment has been done, and how much quantity of water is rejected from the pre-treatment, and what you are doing with the rejected water, whether you may be sent to the gardening or some other purpose. So these are the major updates. As a manufacturer perspective, I have covered only energy and water. There are so many updates also available, such as energy audit, water audit. So much of updates is there, but due to time constraint, I'm considering this as. So key benefits of changes in Higg FEM 4.0. So major benefit which I see is there is an expansion in environmental issues. They have covered questions like testing of groundwater and contamination, and groundwater extraction authorization to ensure to protect the environment, and also some of the alignment with the global industry standards, such as alignment with the GHG, SBTA, and ZDHC. And I see major key benefits is about data interpretation. They have provided a detailed view on data, as we discussed earlier in energy and water, how depth they are collecting the data. Likewise, we have to collect it as industrial and domestic. Initially, it may be a tougher job to do this thing, to adopt Higg FEM 4.0 for your facility. Once it is adapted to your facility, you can able to visualize your facility where we are right now, and what is our target, and what is the barrier between us to achieve those target. So we can visualize everything, we can identify the issues. If you are tracking detailed way, such as domestic consumption of water, industrial consumption of water, domestic usage, industrial usage, we can able to identify in which area we are consuming more, in which area we have to focus on more. We can able to identify those things, and we can go in a continuous improvement path. Finally, I want to say is a change is inevitable, but progress always depends on how we are acting to the change. Thank you so much for giving the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Arun, yeah, for taking us through this journey and sharing what you have put in terms of evaluation. And let's use the same three-letter word art, yeah. You have showed us that sustainability accounting is necessary, accounting of all materials of resources that go in, yeah. You have also showed us that there is reward in that kind of accounting. Once you are able to see what the changes are, you can. I can't think of a word starting with T, but I want to say thank you for putting in all the efforts with your team, for studying the 4.0 changes, for looking at how it impacts, so that the many SMEs and MSMEs who are on the call can learn from your experience and move ahead. For colleagues who are joining, for participants, yeah, if you have any questions for Arun that you would want him to elaborate, please put in your questions via the chat box. And while we get some more insights from our speakers, please also take a minute or so to respond to the feedback form which George will be adding to the chat box. Yeah. So George, if you can add the feedback form, and if you can once again add the Mentimeter link so that participants can talk about their wish list. What next? What do they wish for? If you can paste the link to the Menti, George, and we ask participants with regards to what they wish for as next steps. Yeah. Okay, but then it's over to you. Let's go through some of the questions. Angela, there is one question with regards to the training for 4.0 changes. And the question is whether the audience and the participants in the future will have to pay to join any of your webinars to get information about those changes.
So we may overview training available now for free in our website. There are certain webinar is still coming up that is still free available for everybody to register. There is, I know that some SAC approved trainers are also offering free or also at a cost for FEM training. So you will have to, if you go through those training programs, then you will have to check with them to see whether it is free or is with a charge.
Okay, okay, got it. Yeah. And then, Angela, while you were sharing, perhaps another point is with regards to you shared with everybody the list of approved training providers for Higg FEM. Yeah. But on the other hand, the question from the participant is that while SAC says all of these are approved trainers, brands sometimes want to work with some specific training service providers. And the question is, well, if all the training providers have been approved and they are all competent, then can SAC speak to the brands that they make it possible for the manufacturers to choose a provider of their choice? Are those discussions taking place?
So I guess yes and no. There's so much stakeholder in there. So basically, if they're listed as SAC approved trainers, they have access to our training material that they also have our support in terms of delivery training or behind the scene. So they give more flexibilities. But then all of these SAC approved trainers required to go through a certain training curriculum and go through a exam in order to become an approved trainer. So for some brands that they have maybe their partnership in deliver different type of training, they may continue to do so, but that will be different. They won't consider as a SAC approved training. But we are encouraging all the brands to consolidate resources so that facility does not require to attend very similar training like 5 to 10 times a year. But we are trying to collaborate with them. And I know the brands is very keen to also collaborate with other brands as well.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You already shared with us that you're going to have a launch event in November. The link was shared earlier by George, but it's also part of your slides, which will be shared with all the participants so they know about this. And then Perhaps one question for you, Arun, and also maybe for you, Kaim. One of the participants is asking about the need for ZDHC level 2 training. Let's say this is advanced chemical management training. Kaim, you mentioned a few resources for training. You showed the GIZ Atingi platform with regards to
Yeah, yeah,
climate action. And
yeah.
Arun, perhaps you are also using some training resources. If both of you can share with the audience, what should they do if they want advanced chemical management, wastewater management trainings? Maybe we start with you, Kayum. As a brand, what
Yeah.
trainings are you recommending?
Actually, I think different JDSC training provider had different kind of advanced training. I can say one thing, there is a 10 points training,
Hmm.
10 priority issues. I think for the advanced training, they can go for it. It is done by, I think, lot of training provided by the JDSC. So it will be
Okay.
helpful, I think.
Okay. Thank you. And Arun, do you have some recommendation for our fellow participant?
Actually, I have seen some of the trainings will be provided by the ZDHC,
Hmm.
Supplier Learning Hub, I think so.
Hmm.
From ZDHC itself, they have providing some trainings. And as Quim said, Atinji also have, I have seen some chemical management for SMEs. That
Yeah.
also will be helpful. ZDHC, if you short summarize, input we have to classify with the inventories and in the facility, I think ZDHC has released one guidelines, technical
Hmm.
industry guidelines, TIG. If you learn it, you can able to answer all the questions, whatever the chemical audits which has been conducted in your facility,
Hmm.
you can able to answer it out. And in the terms of output, you can able to wastewater guidelines, ZDHC wastewater guidelines. Everything is available in the ZDHC portal itself.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah. You rightly said on Atingi platform of GIZ, there is the REMC or EREMC training, E version of resource efficient management of chemicals. And some of you perhaps have joined the earlier online seminars of from Asia Garment Hub. One was focused on biomass topic. We had also a representative from H&M there speaking. One was focused on the topic of renewable energy and overall chemical management. So, having heard from you about the changes, yeah, Arun, I'm curious. You mentioned the need for additional meters, for
Yes.
example, yeah, for separation of recording of energy use. Um, what kind of budget are we talking of? If you can't give numbers, then is it significant in terms of operational costs, percentage wise, that you had to invest for this additional metering, segregation, reporting? How many more team members did you end up hiring for all the reporting work?
Definitely, it's a actually we have in considering Eastman, we alone have a 26 facilities. For each and every facility, we have to install separate meters like
Hmm.
domestic, industrial, and EV meters also domestic, industrial, and so many trackings and some of it is like energy audits need to be conducted, water audits need to be conducted. There will be a huge cost involved in adopting Higg FEM 4.0.
Hmm.
But what we have to say, the cost value, frankly saying, I don't aware about the cost value compared to
Okay.
those business values. Uh, it could approximately increase our cost budgeting values. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah. And is your impact assessment saying that those additional metering will perhaps reduce the time and effort required to gather data then?
Yes. Uh, if you install so much of meters, like there will be a more online meter has been come, like you heard about IoT systems.
Hmm.
If it is a automated meter is fixed and it is linked to the IoT, it will directly report to you, can able to visualize what is the exact consumption per day, or
Okay.
every hour we can able to calculate. There will be a lot of advantages in adopting this system compared to those old system, but investment is needed. if there is any program will be conducted from brand end or someone is supporting if someone is some brand is supporting if you are doing business with only the Higg FEM 4.0 this much scored person means then it will be give a recognition to us because we are doing so much of initiatives, but
Got
we don't recognized by the society. So from brands and end, it's a request from my end.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for making that clear. The need for financial support and financial partnership. Then let's also see, George, the wish list from the participants. If you can share your screen and show us what have the participants mentioned. What next? Um, More alignment with SBTI. You touched upon this, Angela. Um, there's also focus on European Green Deal and due diligence requirements. So I'm curious, Kaim and Angela, do you see the Higg FEM supporting brands and retailers for their due diligence obligations as per German supply chain law in terms of environmental aspects? Are some of the data items useful for that reporting? Kaim, you're a European company. What do you feel?
Yeah, I think there's, that part I think not addressed properly yet, but I think SSC is thinking about it because a lot of initiatives are arranging together, and you due diligence and I think Green Deal will also become in next I think next of their plan I think. So definitely it will come I think.
Okay. Okay, got it. Yeah. And now you have, of course, shared a lot of your time, your wisdom, your experience. But as we move and go on from here, Arun, you heard from the participants, you heard from a brand, you heard from SAC. What do you plan to do next? November is soon. And as the 4.0 is coming up, what do you plan to do next? What would you wish? You mentioned financial support
Yes, financial support.
and okay. All right. Thank you. Kaim, how about you with regards to 4.0? What's your wish list for SAC,
Uh,
for your partners, supplier partners?
And
yeah,
more
my
number of trainings from SAC and
Okay, more trainings.
more trainings.
All right. Okay, thank you. And Kaim, from a brand
yeah,
perspective.
from our brand perspective is to join suppliers to the SBTI. This is one of the priority, and also to join some kind of resource efficiency program. That could be ours, that could be other brands, but they
Okay,
have to join something like any resource efficiency, like Green Deal or Clean by Design, something like that.
okay, thank you. Angela, you speak to brands, you speak to associations, you speak to manufacturers. What next?
Yeah, well, right now our top priorities is to develop even more detailed training that available for everybody's again, session by sessions, training for all Higg facility user. And then my second call to actions for the audience is that, be open-minded and use it. Don't be scared of the FEM 4.0 like you heard from rumors. Yes, it is longer, but it's not a beast. Trust me, when you utilize it, you're gonna find it much more useful. And while more companies are accepting and adopting it, it's going to save you a bunch of resources and we're much better aligned. So I really hoping that, be open-minded, use it, and do let us know what you think about the tools. We always here to improve, but you need to let us know so that we can actually do that together.
Okay, so you heard it from SAC. Use the tool, let them know how it can be improved further, how it can become more strong, so that it can be this universally accepted platform which allows you to respond to the regulatory requirements, but also puts you on the path for improvement. To all the participants, thank you for staying with us. To George, to Ahmad, to Lisa, and everybody from GIZ Asia Garment Hub team, thank you for making sure that it works as it should. And for our speakers, to Angela, to Kaim, to Arun, thank you for your efforts in preparation. Thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom with the participants. Yeah? Take care, all the best. Start using 4.0.
Thank
All the
you.
best,
Thank
Rakesh.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, all the listeners. Bye.